You took it. I know you did.
No, I swear it wasn't me.
Don't lie to me. Everyone's watching.
Please, you have to believe me.
The Christmas lights should have felt magical. Maya Bennett had worked the holiday shift at Luminara restaurant for 3 years running, always volunteering so her colleagues with families could spend Christmas Eve at home. At 24, she'd become the senior waitress everyone relied on, the one who knew every regular's preference and could handle the most demanding tables with grace. Then Preston Ward, the general manager who'd resented her since she rejected his advances 6 months ago, stepped into the center of the dining room with security guards flanking him. "Stop her," he announced, loud enough for every table to hear. "Check her apron. She stole Mrs. Vandermeer's diamond bracelet, $75,000. The accusation hit like a physical blow. Maya's hands shook as security forced her to empty her apron pockets in front of 80 stunned diners. There, planted among her order pad and pens, lay a glittering bracelet she'd never seen before. The flash of phone cameras captured everything, her shock, her tears, Preston's triumphant sneer. "You're fired," he said with barely concealed satisfaction. "Security will escort you out. Consider yourself lucky we're not calling the police." Then a voice cut through the chaos, cold and commanding. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." Before we dive into Maya's incredible journey from that devastating Christmas Eve to everything that came after, I need you to do something for me. If you're already feeling the emotion of this story, if you're rooting for Maya and can't wait to see justice served, hit that like button right now. And here's what I really want to know. Drop a comment telling me, what country are you watching from? What city? What time is it where you are right now? I love knowing that this story is reaching people all over the world, at different times, in different places, but all connected by the same desire to see good triumph over evil. Let me know in the comments, and then let's get back to Maya's story. Trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. The dining room fell silent in that particular way expensive spaces do when power enters the room. Maya stood frozen, bracelet glinting in her trembling palm, tears blurring the crystal chandeliers into stars of humiliation. Then she heard footsteps, measured, deliberate, crossing the marble floor with absolute authority. Dominic Russo materialized beside her like he'd been summoned from her desperate prayers. Maya recognized him instantly. Table 12, always. Scotch neat rare steak, appreciated good service with generous tips but never unnecessary conversation. She'd served him dozens of times over 3 years, perfecting the art of being helpful yet invisible, the way excellent servers must be. But he was looking at her now, really looking like she was the only person in a room full of 80 witnesses to her destruction. "This woman is my fiancée," Dominic announced, his voice carrying that particular quality of men accustomed to being obeyed. His hand settled on Maya's shoulder, warm, solid, impossibly reassuring. And she didn't steal anything. The words hit Maya like electricity. Fiancé. What was he? Preston's face cycled through shock, confusion, then calculation. "Mr. Russo, sir. With all respect, the evidence is clear. The bracelet was found in her possession. We have protocols. The evidence was planted." Dominic's tone could have frozen the champagne. "And we both know it, Preston. I've been watching this restaurant's operations for some time now. Interesting financial discrepancies. We'll be discussing those very soon." He turned to the security guards flanking Maya. "Release her, now." The guards looked to Preston, who'd gone pale beneath the dining room's flattering lighting. Whatever authority he'd wielded moments ago evaporated under Dominic's cold stare. The owner's owner had spoken. "Of course, Mr. Russo," Preston managed, his voice strangled. "There must be some misunderstanding." "There is. You misunderstood who you could destroy without consequences." Dominic's hand moved from Maya's shoulder to her back, guiding her firmly toward the exit. "Come on, Amor. We're leaving." Maya's legs moved on autopilot, muscle memory carrying her through the dining room where she'd worked countless shifts. Guests stared, some sympathetic, most merely entertained by the evening's unexpected drama. The Christmas music continued playing, oblivious to the wreckage of her life. The December air hit like a slap when they stepped outside. Maya's breath came in visible gasps, shock finally breaking through adrenaline. "Why did you help me? You don't even know me." Dominic studied her with those dark eyes that missed nothing. "I know Preston Ward. I know his type. Mediocre men who punish women for saying no. And I've watched you work for 3 years, Maya." "You're not a thief." He knew her name. She'd worn a name tag every shift, but somehow hearing it from his mouth felt different, personal. "I can help you. Dominic continued, producing a business card from his jacket. The cardstock was thick, expensive, embossed with an address in Tribeca. Meet me tomorrow at 10. I have a proposition that could solve both our problems. Maya stared at the card, then at the man offering it. Dominic Russo. Everyone in the restaurant industry knew the name, knew the family's reputation, legitimate on the surface, whispers of something darker underneath. Her mother would have called this jumping from the frying pan into the fire. But her mother was dead. Her father too. And Tyler's experimental treatment started in 2 weeks. If she could find $15,000 she no longer had any way to earn. Tomorrow, she heard herself say. 10 o'clock. The penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor. Maya had checked the address 3 times on her phone, certain there'd been a mistake. But the doorman had her name on a list, and the private elevator opened directly into an apartment that looked like something from architectural magazines. Dominic waited in the living room, dressed casually in dark jeans, and a Henley that somehow made him more intimidating than the suit. Without the restaurant's theatrical lighting, she could see the scar bisecting his left eyebrow, the silver threading his dark hair at the temples. He was older than she'd thought. 35, maybe 37. Thank you for coming, he said, gesturing to a leather sofa that probably cost more than her annual rent. Coffee? Just tell me what you want. Maya remained standing, defensive. Nobody does what you did last night without wanting something. Direct. I like that. Dominic poured coffee anyway, set it on the table between them. My grandmother is dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. 6 months, maybe less. Pain flickered across his face, quickly controlled. Her last wish is to see me settled, married to someone who'll give her great-grandchildren. She's traditional, old country Italian. Family is everything. Maya waited, not understanding where this was going. I need a fiancé for 6 months, Dominic continued. Someone my grandmother will believe. Someone who'll attend family dinners and look appropriately devoted. In exchange, I'll pay you $100,000. I'll also investigate who actually stole that bracelet and clear your name completely. The number hit Maya like a physical force. 100,000, Tyler's treatment, rent for a year, breathing room she hadn't had since her parents died. Why me? She whispered. Because you're kind. Genuine. My grandmother can spot a fake from across a room. She'll see your real warmth. Dominic's expression softened slightly. And because Preston Ward framed you to cover his own crimes. I watched your face last night, Maya. You didn't just lose your job. You lost your dignity. I have the power to restore both. Let me help you. Maya looked at the coffee she hadn't touched, at the city sprawling 42 floors below, at this dangerous stranger offering salvation. 6 months, she said finally, and you prove I didn't steal anything. 6 months, Dominic agreed, starting now. Neither of them realized then how completely those 6 months would change everything. The penthouse felt like a museum, where Maya was terrified to touch anything. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed Manhattan like a painting she couldn't afford to buy, and the artwork on the walls, abstract pieces with subtle lighting, probably cost more than she'd earned in her entire 24 years. She stood in the entryway, still wearing her discount store jeans and coat, feeling like an intruder. Miss Bennett. A man emerged from what appeared to be an office, impossibly put together in tailored slacks and a crisp button-down. Mid-30s, dark hair styled with precision, assessing her with the efficiency of someone who managed complicated logistics for a living. I'm Nico Castelli, Mr. Russo's personal assistant. We'll be working closely together. Maya shook his offered hand, noting the strength in his grip. Just Maya is fine. Maya then. Nico produced an iPad, already scrolling through what looked like a military operations schedule. Family dinner this Sunday at Grandmother Rosa's estate in Westchester. Driver will collect you at 2. Business function next Thursday. Charity gala at the plaza. Black tie. You'll need to be comfortable with basic Italian phrases. Rosa often slips into her native language when emotional. Maya's head spun. I don't speak Italian. And I don't have anything appropriate for. Already handled. Nico gestured toward the guest bedroom where garment bags hung like soldiers at attention. Stylist is arriving in 20 minutes. She has your measurements. How does she have my measurements? Mr. Russo is thorough. Nico's expression suggested this should surprise no one. The arrangement requires you to look the part. These clothes are tools, not gifts. Don't read sentiment into logistics. This stylist, a woman named Simone who looked like she'd stepped from a fashion magazine, descended with an efficiency that left Maya breathless. Elegant dresses in jewel tones, cashmere sweaters, softer than anything Maya had touched, shoes that cost what she used to make in a month, each piece selected to project understated sophistication. "This is too much," Maya protested, staring at a midnight blue dress with a price tag she glimpsed before Simone removed it. "I can't accept. You're representing my family now." Dominic's voice came from the doorway, startling her. He'd changed into a charcoal suit, preparing for whatever business filled his afternoons. "This is necessary, not charity. The distinction feels pretty thin from where I'm standing." Something flickered in Dominic's eyes, approval maybe, at her refusal to simply acquiesce. "Then stand somewhere else. You're not my employee, Maya. You're my fiancée, at least as far as anyone outside this apartment knows. That role has requirements." The dress fit perfectly. So did the next three Simone presented. Maya caught her reflection in the full-length mirror and barely recognized herself. Polished, elegant, expensive. A stranger wearing her face. Rosa's estate sprawled across Westchester Hills like something from another era. Stone walls, manicured gardens sleeping under December frost, warmth spilling from windows that promised family inside. Maya's hands trembled as Dominic helped her from the car, his fingers steady against her elbow. "She's going to see right through me," Maya whispered. "She's going to see exactly what I see," Dominic countered quietly. "Someone genuine. Just be yourself." Rosa Marchese was tiny, barely 5 feet, but her presence filled the entrance hall. 80-something years showed in the lines mapping her face, but her dark eyes held sharp intelligence that age hadn't dimmed. She studied Maya with unnerving intensity, taking in the designer dress, the nervous hands, the truth hiding beneath performance. "So you're the waitress who captured my grandson's heart," Rosa said in English, colored by Italian vowels. Maya stumbled through the rehearsed story, meeting at the restaurant, conversation that became something more, Dominic's persistence despite her initial hesitation. The lies tasted bitter. She was lying to a dying woman about loving her grandson. But Rosa's expression shifted, softening in a way Maya hadn't anticipated. The old woman took Maya's hands, hers weathered with decades of work, surprisingly strong. "My husband was a line cook when I met him," Rosa said quietly. "Everyone said I was marrying beneath my station. I came from property, and he came from nothing but talent and determination. But Antonio built our first restaurant with his own hands, worked 18-hour days until his fingers bled. And he treated me like a queen every single day until he died." Her grip tightened. "I see the same quality in you, child. Strength that comes from honest work. Don't let anyone make you ashamed of that." Tears burned Maya's eyes. This woman believed in her, believed in a version of events that was pure fiction, and the acceptance felt like absolution Maya didn't deserve. That evening, after dinner with Rosa's extended family, Dominic drove them back to the city in unusual silence. Maya watched Manhattan's lights approach, guilt settling heavy in her chest. "She's dying," Dominic said finally, hands tight on the steering wheel. "And her greatest fear is leaving me alone." "Dominic, she lost my father 10 years ago. Watched him die in a restaurant parking lot over a territorial dispute with a rival family." His voice carried pain. He usually controlled better. 3 bullets, and he was gone. She made me promise that night. Promise to keep our businesses legitimate, to build something that wouldn't cost me my life too. Finding someone to share that life with, it gives her peace in her final months. Maya understood then. This wasn't about money or appearances. This was love. Desperate, complicated, willing to bend truth if it meant easing a grandmother's dying fear. "She's remarkable," Maya said softly. "She is." Dominic glanced at her, something vulnerable in his expression. "Thank you for today, for being kind to her." "You didn't have to be." "Yes, I did," Maya replied. Some things transcend arrangements. Neither acknowledged that the boundaries of their deal were already blurring. Maya waited until Dominic left for a business meeting before pulling out her phone. The penthouse felt too large with just her inside it, and guilt had been gnawing at her since Sunday dinner with Rosa. She couldn't just play the devoted fiancée while her name remained attached to theft. She needed to clear it herself. Jasmine answered on the 3rd ring, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Maya? Girl, where are you? Everyone's been talking. I need to know what happened that night. Christmas Eve. Who had access to Mrs. Vandermeer's table before the bracelet went missing?" Silence then. "You're investigating this?" "I didn't steal anything, Joss. And I need to prove it." "Okay." Jasmine's voice sharpened with the decisiveness Maya remembered from double shifts when they'd covered each other's sections. "Preston was at that table 20 minutes before service ended. said he was checking on VIP satisfaction, but Mrs. Vandermeer looked annoyed by the interruption. And Maya? Lauren's been acting weird. Really weird. Lauren from accounting? Financial officer now. Got promoted right after you left. She's been having these secretive meetings in her office, closing blinds during the day. Last week I saw her arguing with Preston by the loading dock. Couldn't hear what they said, but she looked scared. Maya's instincts, honed from years of reading difficult customers, prickled with recognition. Can you get me her schedule? When she's in the office alone. Maya, what are you planning? Just trust me, please. When Dominic returned that evening, Maya met him in the living room, with her notes spread across the coffee table. His expression shifted from surprise to something harder as he read her findings. You investigated without telling me. I need to clear my own name, Dominic. Not just wait for someone else to do it. He studied her for a long moment, then pulled out his phone. Santos, I need you at the penthouse. We have a situation that requires your particular expertise. Santos arrived within 30 minutes. A man in his 50s with a detective's assessing eyes and the cautious movements of someone who'd seen violence. He listened to Maya's information without interrupting, then turned to Dominic. I can access Luminara's financial systems, quietly. If there's something to find, I'll find it. How quietly? Maya asked, then caught Dominic's expression. You mean illegally? I mean effectively. Santos's tone suggested this distinction mattered less than results. You want the truth, or you want to feel morally superior while they destroy you? 3 days later, Santos returned with a laptop and a grim expression. The numbers he showed them painted a devastating picture. Over $200,000 missing from employee benefit accounts over 18 months. Christmas bonuses, healthcare contributions, retirement matching, all systematically siphoned through falsified invoices and phantom vendor payments. Preston and Lauren have been stealing from the staff, Santos explained, pulling up spreadsheets that made Maya's stomach turn. The bracelet accusation. The audit was scheduled for January 3rd. They needed a major distraction, and you were convenient. Young, financially struggling, no powerful connections to fight back. Maya felt sick, not just for herself, but for Jasmine, for Marco who'd worked there 15 years. For every person who'd trusted the restaurant with their livelihoods, only to be robbed by the people managing their benefits. We exposed them, she said flatly. All of it. The theft, the frame job, everything. If they're stealing this much, they're not working alone. Dominic's voice carried warning. Someone bigger is involved. Someone with access to financial systems and connections to move that much money. When we corner them, they'll be dangerous. The danger materialized 2 nights later. Maya had gone to her old apartment to collect more clothes, and Santos followed at Dominic's insistence. She unlocked her door to chaos. Furniture overturned, clothes scattered, her few precious possessions destroyed with deliberate cruelty. But what stopped her breath were the photographs. Every picture of her parents, torn from frames and shredded. Tyler's medical records scattered across the floor like confetti. The message was clear. We know what matters to you. We can reach it. Santos called Dominic immediately. She's not going back here. Ever. Maya didn't argue. The violation felt too intimate, too targeted. Someone had touched her parents' faces, her brother's private health information, the remnants of the family she'd already lost. Back at the penthouse, Dominic poured whiskey, neither of them wanted, and sat beside her on the couch. Not touching, but close enough that Maya could feel his presence like a shield. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I should have anticipated this. How could you? I didn't even know. Maya's voice broke. She'd been so focused on clearing her name, she hadn't considered what Preston and Lauren would do when threatened. Tell me about them. Dominic's tone invited rather than demanded. Your parents, so Maya did. Told him about her father's terrible jokes and her mother's insistence on Sunday dinners no matter how exhausted everyone was. About the car accident when she was 19, black ice and another driver's negligence, and 30 seconds that destroyed everything. About becoming Tyler's guardian overnight, learning to be strong when she felt like shattering. I failed them, she whispered. Couldn't even keep their pictures safe. You didn't fail anyone. Dominic's hand found hers in the darkness. You survived. You protected Tyler. You built a life from wreckage. That's not failure, Maya. That's extraordinary strength. Then he told her about his own losses, his father's murder, the parking lot violence, his mother Elena's retreat into depression so profound she barely recognized her own son anymore. About inheriting the family business at 25, trying to honor his father while keeping his promise to Rosa to stay legitimate. We're both caregivers. Maya realized. Carrying people who can't carry themselves. Maybe that's why this works, Dominic said softly. We understand the weight. His thumb brushed across her knuckles, and Maya felt the arrangement shifting into something neither had agreed to. Something far more dangerous than fake engagements or financial investigations. Something that felt terrifyingly real. The hospital room smelled like antiseptic, and the particular staleness of recirculated air. Tyler sat propped against pillows, thinner than Maya remembered from 2 weeks ago. Dark circles, shadowing eyes too old for 16. But his gaze sharpened the moment Dominic appeared in the doorway carrying coffee. So this is the mysterious boyfriend, Tyler said, his tone carrying the protective edge of someone who'd watched his sister struggle alone for too long. Convenient timing, showing up right after Maya loses her job. Tyler, Maya started, but Dominic raised a hand. He's right to be suspicious. Dominic set the coffee down. Meeting Tyler's stare directly. I'd question my motives too. I'm going to find your doctor, Maya said, recognizing her brother's interrogation face. Check on lab results. The moment the door closed behind her, Tyler's expression hardened further. He's paying you, isn't he? This whole thing is an arrangement. Maya froze in the hallway, torn between respecting their privacy and protecting her carefully constructed story. But she'd never lied to Tyler. They'd survived too much together for dishonesty now. She stepped back into the room. Yes, it's an arrangement. He needed a fiancée for his grandmother. I needed money for your treatment. But it's more complicated than that. Is he helping you clear your name? Yes. Is he treating you well? Maya thought of Dominic's patience, his fury at her apartment's violation, the way he'd held her hand in the darkness. Better than well. Tyler studied them both, then nodded slowly. Mom and Dad would want you to accept help. Being strong doesn't mean doing everything alone, Maya. They'd tell you that. The blessing mattered more than Maya expected. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed in front of her baby brother. Then Dr. Patel entered with news that shattered everything. Experimental trial. CAR T-cell therapy. Dr. Patel's words blurred together as Maya tried to process. His best chance. Possibly his only chance, given how aggressive this relapse is. But insurance considers it investigational. Out-of-pocket cost is $150,000. The number echoed in Maya's skull. Even with Dominic's $100,000, she'd be $50,000 short. Tyler would die because she couldn't afford to save him. We'll figure it out, Tyler said quietly, reading her expression. But his voice carried the resignation of someone who'd already calculated the impossible mathematics. In the parking garage, Maya's composure finally cracked. Dominic caught her as her knees buckled, steadying her against his car. I'll cover the difference, he said immediately. All of it. We'll get him into the trial. No. The word came out sharper than she intended. I can't accept more. I'm already indebted to you for. You're not indebted to me for anything. Dominic's frustration broke through his usual control. This isn't a transaction, Maya. When did you decide it was? It was always a transaction. That was the deal. 6 months, 100,000. Both of us get what we need and walk away. Her voice cracked. I can't take more from you. I can't need you like this. Why is accepting help so impossible for you? Because people leave. The words ripped from somewhere deep and raw. My parents left. Everyone leaves eventually, and if I need you, if Tyler needs you, when you go, we'll fall apart. I can't fall apart. Tyler needs me to be strong. Dominic's expression softened into something that looked like understanding and pain in equal measure. He cupped her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. I was 17, he said quietly, working the dinner shift at our first restaurant. Someone called, said there was a problem in the parking lot. By the time I got there, my father was on the ground, bleeding out from 3 gunshot wounds. Territorial dispute, Santos told me later. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong family. His voice roughened. He died in my arms, Maya. And I swore that night I'd never be vulnerable enough to lose someone like that again. I built walls so high, no one could reach me. His thumbs brushed away tears she hadn't realized were falling. But pushing people away didn't make me stronger. It made me alone, and I'm done being alone. I'm paying for Tyler's treatment, whether you like it or not. Not because you're a charity, but because I care about you. Both of you. And I'm not going anywhere. Something shifted between them. Tectonic plates of their carefully constructed arrangement grinding against the reality of what they'd become. Maya saw it in his eyes, felt it in the way his hands trembled slightly against her face. This wasn't pretend anymore. Dominic, let me help you, he whispered. Please, let someone help you for once. Maya nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in her throat. He pulled her against his chest, and she let herself break there in the shelter of his arms. The car came out of nowhere, on the drive back to the city. One moment, Maya was navigating evening traffic. The next, a black SUV swerved into her lane, forcing her toward the guardrail. Her hands locked on the steering wheel, heart hammering as metal scraped metal. Then another car, Santos's, she realized distantly, slammed into the SUV from behind, forcing it off the road in a controlled collision that spoke of training and experience. Both vehicles stopped. Santos was out first, weapon drawn, approaching the SUV with lethal efficiency. Maya's hands shook too hard to dial. Santos made the call for her, speaking in clipped tones to Dominic while keeping his gun trained on the SUV's driver, a man in his 30s, clearly outmatched and terrified. Lauren's boyfriend Derek hired him, Santos explained later at the penthouse, after police had taken statements and the driver into custody. Low-level enforcer, not even good at his job. But the message is clear. They know you're getting close to something big, and they're escalating. Dominic paced like a caged predator. She's not leaving this building without armed security. Period. Agreed, Santos said. But boss? Derek has connections beyond our sphere. If he's involved, this is bigger than restaurant embezzlement. Maya watched them plan her protection, feeling the net tightening. Someone wanted her silenced badly enough to try vehicular assault, which meant they were hiding something even worse than stolen bonuses. Good, she said, surprising both men. Let them escalate. The more desperate they get, the sloppier they'll be, and we'll be waiting. Santos spread blueprints of Luminara across Dominic's dining table, like a general planning a siege. New Year's Eve is their biggest night. 300 guests, every table booked for months. Press will be there, covering the event. It's perfect. It's dangerous, Dominic countered, his eyes finding Maya. You'll be walking into a room where people tried to kill you. Good. Maya's voice carried steel she'd forged through fire. They stole from families who could barely afford rent. Destroyed my reputation to cover their crimes. I want to see their faces when everything falls apart. Santos nodded approval. We leak information through my contact at the auditing firm. Suggest the investigation's been moved up to January 2nd instead of mid-month. That'll create pressure. Force mistakes. I'll have 3 people inside as guests, documenting everything. The moment Preston or Lauren makes contact with their partners, we have them. And if they recognize the trap, Dominic asked, then we have a very expensive dinner, and try again. Santos's expression suggested he didn't believe his own words. But desperate people make stupid choices. They'll take the bait. Maya studied the blueprints, memorizing exits she'd used hundreds of times as staff. Strange how different the restaurant looked from this perspective. Not workplace, but battlefield. When do we start? Tonight, Santos said. We plant the audit rumor. You two enjoy what's left of the holidays. And Maya, start practicing looking like a woman who has everything. That proved harder than expected when Rosa's condition deteriorated 3 days later. The hospice room was smaller than Maya expected, painted in colors meant to soothe, but only emphasizing the clinical reality of death's approach. Rosa lay diminished against white pillows, breathing shallow but steady. Dominic sat beside her, holding her hand with a gentleness that broke Maya's heart. Go handle your business call, Maya said softly. I'll stay with her. Dominic hesitated, then kissed his grandmother's forehead. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Maya settled into the chair he'd vacated, pulling out her phone where she'd downloaded Italian children's stories. Her pronunciation was terrible, but Rosa's eyes opened, focusing on her with surprising clarity. You sound like a tourist, Rosa whispered, the ghost of her usual spirit flickering through. But your heart is good. That matters more than accent. I wanted to read you something beautiful, Maya said. Dominic mentioned you love the old stories. I love that you're here. Rosa's hand found Maya's, grip weak but determined. You love him. This started as pretend, but it's real now. Maya's breath caught. She'd been so careful, so controlled around Rosa. But apparently dying women saw through performance to truth. I'm not supposed to, Maya admitted. The arrangement ends in 6 months. My grandson is a fool if he lets you go. Rosa's smile carried decades of hard-won wisdom. Promise me you'll fight for this. Don't let fear win. Fear is the only thing that steals more than death. I promise, Maya whispered. Rosa passed that night, with Dominic and Maya beside her. One moment her breathing simply stopped, peaceful as falling asleep. Dominic's control shattered. The grandson who'd been so careful, so strong, finally breaking under the weight of love and loss. Maya held him while he wept, this dangerous man, made vulnerable by grief, and understood that strength wasn't the absence of breaking. It was breaking and choosing to rebuild anyway. The funeral drew hundreds, restaurant workers whose careers Rosa had launched, families she'd helped through hard times, business leaders who'd learned ethics from her example. The church overflowed into the parking lot where speakers carried the service to those who couldn't fit inside. Dominic stood at the pulpit in a black suit that made him look carved from grief itself. His voice carried across the silent crowd, steady despite the devastation Maya knew lived beneath it. My grandmother taught me that power without compassion is just cruelty in expensive clothes. That family isn't just blood, it's who chooses to stand beside you when everything falls apart. His eyes found Maya in the front pew, holding there with an intensity that felt like a declaration. She taught me that real strength is vulnerability. Real success is measured by who mourns you when you're gone. And real love, the kind worth fighting for, is choosing someone every single day, not just when it's easy. Maya's tears fell freely. He wasn't talking about Rosa anymore. Or maybe he was talking about all of it. Grief and love, and the courage to keep choosing both despite inevitable loss. After the burial, after the reception, after the last mourners had paid their respects, Dominic and Maya stood alone in his penthouse. The city glittered below them, beautiful and indifferent to human sorrow. "The arrangement doesn't have to end," Dominic said quietly. "I want it to be real. I'm in love with you, Maya. Completely terrifyingly in love with you. And I don't want to waste another day pretending otherwise." Maya turned to face him, this man who'd defended her when she had nothing, who'd given her brother life, who'd seen past her server's uniform to the person underneath. "I love you too. I think I have since Christmas Eve, when you stood up for me like I mattered." He kissed her then, not the careful public kisses they'd performed for Rosa's benefit, but something raw and real, and full of the grief and hope tangled together in both their hearts. When they finally broke apart, Maya pressed her forehead to his. "But there's still business to finish," she said. "Preston and Lauren, destroyed people. They need to answer for that." "New Year's Eve," Dominic agreed. "We take back everything they stole. Together." The word hung between them like a promise. Not an arrangement anymore. Not a transaction. Just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and decided to build something worth keeping. 3 days until New Year's. 3 days until justice. Luminara sparkled like something from a dream on New Year's Eve. Every table occupied by Manhattan's elite in designer gowns and tuxedos, champagne flowing in rivers of gold. The restaurant's 3 Michelin stars justified by food that looked like edible art. Maya had served hundreds of shifts here, but she'd never walked through the front entrance as a guest. Never felt marble beneath expensive heels instead of worn work shoes. The red dress Simone had chosen fit like armor, silk that moved like water, neckline that suggested elegance rather than desperation, diamond engagement ring catching light with every gesture. Real now, not prop. The weight of it still surprised her. Dominic's hand settled possessively on her lower back as they entered. His presence, announcing ownership in a way that made nearby diners turn and stare. The maitre d' Paolo, who'd once complimented Maya's efficiency, barely concealed his shock. "Mr. Russo, Miss Bennett, your table is ready." Maya caught movement in her peripheral vision. Staff reactions ranged from shock to satisfaction. Jasmine offering a subtle thumbs up from behind the host stand, Marco's grin visible through the kitchen window. Many had believed in her innocence. Tonight they'd witness vindication. Preston stood near the bar, champagne flute frozen halfway to his mouth, face draining of color. Lauren emerged from the back office, saw Maya, and her practiced composure cracked like fine china dropped on marble. "VIP table 12, Dominic said pleasantly, guiding Maya toward the center of the dining room where they'd have perfect sightlines to every corner. "I believe that's our usual spot." Santos sat 3 tables away with 2 people Maya didn't recognize, all 3 dressed like wealthy guests enjoying the holiday. But Santos's eyes tracked every movement with predatory focus, and she noticed the nearly invisible earpiece when he turned his head. Service progressed with the polished efficiency Luminara was famous for. Maya ordered dishes she'd served 1,000 times, tasting them now from the other side of the experience. But her attention stayed fixed on Lauren, who made increasingly frequent trips to the office, movements jerky with nerves, phone pressed to her ear, expression deteriorating from controlled to panicked. At 11:30, Tyler arrived. He wore a suit Maya had never seen him in, looking older than 16, carrying a leather briefcase with the confidence of someone playing a role he'd rehearsed. His eyes found hers across the room, and Maya nodded once. Tyler walked directly to their table, voice projecting clearly. "Maya, you left these documents in my hospital room. I thought you might need them tonight." Preston materialized beside them with forced charm, hand reaching for the briefcase. "Tyler, right? Your sister has told me so much about you. Let me take those. I'm sure they're nothing that should interrupt her evening." "They're financial records from Luminara," Tyler announced, still loud enough that nearby tables went quiet, conversations faltering. "Something about employee benefits and missing money?" Maya said she was helping with an investigation. The restaurant fell silent, in that particular way expensive spaces do, when scandal threatens their carefully maintained elegance. Preston's facade cracked visibly. Lauren appeared from the office, alarm written across every feature. Dominic stood with the same commanding presence he'd wielded on Christmas Eve, addressing the room with a voice that demanded attention. For the past year, this restaurant's general manager and financial officer have been systematically stealing from employee benefit funds. Over $200,000, taken from the people who make this establishment run. He produced documents Santos had compiled, bank statements, transfer records, forged signatures laid out with prosecutorial precision. The Christmas Eve theft accusation against Maya Bennett was a deliberate distraction from an internal audit. They framed an innocent woman to cover their crimes. Preston tried to recover, his voice pitched with desperate charm. "This is absurd. Maya obviously manipulated Mr. Russo." "Maya did nothing except refuse your advances." Dominic cut him off with surgical coldness. "And when you couldn't have her, you destroyed her reputation to cover your theft. That ends tonight." The front entrance opened. Not more guests. Police officers with the particular bearing of people executing warrants. Santos's former colleagues, Maya realized, recognizing the detective who'd taken her statement after the road incident. Preston's face went from pale to gray. Lauren actually tried to run, making it 3 steps toward the kitchen, before an officer intercepted her with professional efficiency. "Preston Ward, Lauren Cross, you're under arrest for embezzlement, wire fraud, and conspiracy." The detective's voice carried across the silent restaurant. "You have the right to remain silent." As they were cuffed, Preston still sputtering protests, Lauren crying with the hopeless desperation of someone watching their life collapse. Maya stood. Her legs felt steady beneath her, strong. She'd earned this moment through every terrified night, every humiliation, every time she'd wanted to quit but chose to fight instead. She walked directly to Preston, meeting his eyes as an officer held him. "You thought I was nobody, just a waitress you could discard. But I'm the woman who brought you down." Her voice didn't shake. "I hope every day in prison, you remember that." The restaurant erupted into applause. Staff members abandoned their stations to clap, tears streaming down Jasmine's face. Guests who'd witnessed both Maya's destruction and vindication rose to their feet. Even the stoic kitchen staff appeared in doorways, Marco whistling loud enough to echo. Dominic pulled Maya close as champagne corks popped at midnight, the city exploding with celebration outside floor-to-ceiling windows. He kissed her deeply, thoroughly, claiming her in front of everyone who'd once watched her humiliation. "Happy New Year," he murmured against her lips. "To new beginnings." Maya kissed him back, tasting champagne and victory, and the future they'd fought for. "To justice, and to us." Around them, Luminara continued its celebration, but the restaurant would never be the same. Neither would Maya. She'd walked out of here broken on Christmas Eve. Tonight, she walked out whole. The depositions were exhausting. Maya sat across from lawyers in expensive suits, recounting Christmas Eve's humiliation, over and over, until the words lost meaning and became just sounds. But each retelling served purpose, building the prosecution's case, exposing the breadth of crimes that had hidden beneath Luminara's elegant facade. Preston's and Lauren's arrests unraveled something larger than anyone had anticipated. Derek's connections led investigators to a network of embezzlement schemes operating through high-end restaurants across 3 states. Luminara was just one target in a sophisticated operation that had stolen nearly $2 million from workers over 5 years. The scope was staggering. They targeted restaurants with high turnover, Santos explained during one of his briefings at the penthouse, spreadsheets covering Dominic's dining table. Service industry workers are vulnerable, often undocumented, always struggling, rarely have resources to fight back. Preston and Lauren weren't masterminds. They were middle management in someone else's operation. Maya felt sick. How many other waitresses like her had been framed, fired, destroyed to cover these thefts? The $200,000 from Luminara has been recovered, Santos continued. Judge ordered full restitution plus 20% interest. Your former colleagues will get their bonuses with additional compensation for emotional distress. Good, Maya said quietly. They earned it. Former colleagues reached out as news spread. Some apologetic, some defensive, all wanting to reconnect now that her name was cleared. Jasmine invited her to coffee, tears spilling over lattes in a corner cafe, while she apologized for not fighting harder, not speaking up louder on Christmas Eve. You kept working there, Maya interrupted gently. You gathered information that helped bring them down. That took courage, Jas. Others she couldn't forgive as easily. Marco, who'd supervised her for years and then refused to return her calls after the firing. He sent a long email explaining his mortgage, his kids' tuition, his fear of losing his own job if he defended her. Maya read it twice, and then deleted it without responding. You don't owe anyone forgiveness, Dominic said that night, watching her stare at her phone like it held answers. Some relationships don't survive betrayal. That's not your failure. Tyler's experimental treatment began in February, administered in a sterile hospital room that became strangely familiar. Maya sat beside his bed during infusions, watching the CAR T-cells flow into his veins with quiet desperation, praying to parents who couldn't answer that this would work, that she wouldn't lose him too. Dominic visited every afternoon between business meetings, bringing Tyler books about culinary history and stories about restaurant disasters that made the kid laugh despite his nausea. Watching them together, Dominic patient and genuine, Tyler gradually accepting this man who'd become more than his sister's boyfriend, Maya understood that family was built through showing up, through choosing presence repeatedly, especially when it was difficult. By March, Tyler's scans showed what Dr. Patel called remarkable response. The cancer was retreating, cells reprogrammed to fight instead of surrender. Maya cried in the hospital bathroom while Dominic held her, his own relief palpable in the way his hands shook against her back. But questions about her own future remained unanswered. Several restaurants offered positions once her name was cleared, some even proposing management roles with impressive salaries. Maya turned them all down, unable to articulate why returning to the industry that had destroyed her felt wrong. What do you want? Dominic asked one evening as they stood at the penthouse windows, watching Manhattan's lights paint the darkness. Not what you think you should want, not what's practical. What do you want, Maya? She'd been asking herself the same question for weeks. The answer felt impossible, naive, beyond her reach. But standing there with Dominic's arms around her, Maya let herself speak the truth. I want to create something. A restaurant where staff are treated with dignity, paid living wages, where service work is honored instead of dismissed. The words came faster, vision crystallizing, where someone like me, someone without connections or fancy education, can build a career worth being proud of, where workers aren't disposable. Dominic's smile was immediate, transforming his usually controlled expression. Then let's build it. I can't afford partnership, he interrupted. I provide capital and business expertise. You provide vision and operational management. Equal partners, equal ownership, no debt between us. We'll employ people who've been dismissed or underestimated, second chances for those who deserve them. Maya turned to face him fully, searching for the catch, the condition, the moment this generosity would become obligation. But his eyes held only certainty and something fiercer, belief in her. I'm not qualified to run a restaurant, she protested, old insecurities flaring. I was a waitress. You were a senior server who managed floor operations during rush, trained new staff with patience most managers don't possess, handled impossible customers with grace I've rarely witnessed, and worked 3 consecutive Christmases so colleagues with families could be home. Dominic's voice carried absolute conviction. You understand hospitality at a level most managers never reach. You're exactly qualified, Maya. You just need to believe it. That night, they began planning. A closed restaurant space in Brooklyn, affordable because it needed complete renovation, positioned in a neighborhood that deserved excellent food without pretension. They'd call it Bellissima, after Rosa's nickname for the granddaughter she'd never lived to meet but had blessed anyway through loving her grandson. It was ambitious, possibly naive, certainly terrifying. But for the first time since Christmas Eve, Maya felt like she was building something, instead of just surviving the wreckage. And she wasn't building it alone. 6 months after Christmas Eve, Maya stood in the dining room of what would become Bellissima and tried to remember how to breathe. The Brooklyn space had been gutted and rebuilt according to her vision. Exposed brick-painted soft cream, Edison bulbs casting warm light across reclaimed wood tables, an open kitchen where staff worked visible and valued rather than hidden away. every detail chosen deliberately to say, "You matter here, whether you're serving or being served." "You're catastrophizing again," Dominic said from behind her, his hands settling on her shoulders with familiar comfort. "I can hear it from across the room. What if nobody comes? What if the critics hate it? What if it's exactly what this city needs?" He turned her to face him. "We've done the work, Maya. Trust it." The letter sat framed in Maya's office, Rosa's handwriting shaky but determined, written weeks before she died. "Build something beautiful together. Make each other better. That's what love does." She'd suggested the name Bellissima, beautiful, with the certainty of someone who'd built her own empire and recognized the foundation of another. Opening night was invitation only by design. Maya had insisted this first service would be for the people who mattered, not strangers seeking spectacle. Jasmine arrived first, stunning in the floor manager uniform they'd designed together, her eyes bright with tears she refused to shed before service started. "We're really doing this," Jasmine whispered, staring at the dining room like it might disappear. "You earned this," Maya said firmly. "Every late-night double, every impossible customer, every time someone treated you like you were invisible. This is ours." Tyler appeared in a suit that actually fit, 17 now, and healthy in a way that still made Maya want to weep with gratitude. His remission was holding 6 months cancer-free and counting. He'd begged to host opening night despite Dominic's suggestion he should just enjoy himself as a guest. "I want to work," Tyler had insisted. "This is family business. I should contribute." Santos arrived with Nico, both men dressed for celebration, but carrying the watchful alertness that never quite left them. They'd become unexpected friends over the past months. Santos teaching Maya self-defense in the penthouse gym, Nico managing logistics with the efficiency that made impossible things happen. The press arrived next. Food critics from publications that could make or break a restaurant. Writers who'd covered Maya's vindication and wanted to witness her resurrection. She'd given interviews about fair wages, profit sharing, treating service workers with dignity. Some had called her naive, others had called her revolutionary. "Let them write what they want," Dominic had said. "You're changing the industry whether they approve or not." Service began with the precision Maya had learned over years of restaurant work, now elevated by intention rather than desperation. The menu honored Rosa's recipes: osso buco that melted on the tongue, fresh pasta made by hand, tiramisu that tasted like love and nostalgia. Every dish elevated but never pretentious, accessible but not common. Maya worked the floor with Jasmine, greeting guests personally, ensuring the staff felt supported rather than surveilled. She caught Tyler charming a table of food critics with stories about his sister's determination, and smiled at how naturally he inhabited this role. Dominic managed business operations from a discreet corner, tablet tracking inventory and reservations, but his eyes kept finding Maya across the room. They'd learned each other's rhythms. She'd catch his gaze and know he was thinking about adjusting tomorrow's wine order. He'd see her posture shift and send Jasmine to cover while Maya took a breathing moment in the back. Partnership, Maya had learned, wasn't about being the same. It was about knowing where the other person ended and you began, then choosing to bridge that gap anyway. The Times critic approached Maya near the end of service, notepad tucked away but eyes still assessing. "This isn't what I expected," she admitted. "Most restaurants with this level of ambition perform excellence. You've created something gentler, more human." "Excellence doesn't require cruelty," Maya said simply. "That's what we're trying to prove." The review ran 3 days later. Bellissima doesn't just serve exceptional food. It reimagines what restaurants could be if they valued people alongside profit. Bennett and Russo have built something rare, a business with a conscience. Other reviews followed, equally positive. But what mattered more were the applications. Dozens, then hundreds, from service workers who'd been dismissed or exploited, asking for a chance at Bellissima. Maya interviewed each one personally, building a team united by resilience rather than pedigree. Tyler announced his plans for culinary school in April, bringing home brochures with the tentative hope of someone who'd learned not to count on futures. Watching him dream again, healthy, ambitious, building a life beyond survival, made every humiliation Maya had endured worthwhile. Preston's sentencing came that same month. 18 months for embezzlement and conspiracy, his lawyer arguing mitigating circumstances that the judge dismissed with visible contempt. Lauren received 2 years. Derek faced additional assault charges that would keep him imprisoned far longer. "Feel satisfied?" Dominic asked that night, after the news broke. Maya considered. She'd wanted them to suffer once, wanted revenge hot and immediate. But standing in the restaurant she'd built, surrounded by staff who trusted her, loving a man who'd helped her become someone she was proud of being, revenge felt small and distant. "I feel free," she said finally. "They can't touch me anymore. Not really." Dominic pulled her close, and Maya leaned into him. This partnership they'd forged from impossible circumstances. Sometimes, she'd learned, the best justice wasn't destruction. It was building something so beautiful, the people who tried to destroy you became irrelevant. December arrived with the kind of cold that made Manhattan glitter, frost on windows catching morning light like diamonds. Maya woke in Dominic's arms, their arms now, she corrected herself, in the penthouse that had become home, and realized it had been exactly 1 year since Christmas Eve. "You're thinking too loud again," Dominic murmured against her hair, not quite awake but aware of her the way he always was. 1 year, Maya said softly. 1 year since Preston fired me. Since everything changed. He pulled her closer. "We should commemorate it. Not with sadness, but with celebration of how far you've come." They planned a Christmas Eve dinner at Bellissima for families who couldn't afford holiday celebrations, completely free, served with dignity and joy rather than charity's condescension. It was everything Rosa had believed hospitality should be: generosity, community, love made tangible through food and warmth. Maya coordinated every detail, but this time she wasn't invisible. She greeted each arriving family personally, single mothers with tired eyes and determined smiles, elderly couples stretching fixed incomes, children wide-eyed at the restaurant's warmth and the promise of a real meal. She ensured they felt welcomed, rather than pitied, valued, rather than tolerated. Tyler worked the floor with natural charm, 17 and healthy and planning culinary school applications. He crouched beside children, telling exaggerated stories about kitchen disasters that made them laugh, his easy warmth creating magic from ordinary moments. Dominic served food himself, carrying plates with the same care he brought to everything, embodying Rosa's lesson that no job was beneath you if it helped someone. Former Luminara staff had volunteered, Jasmine managing the floor with quiet efficiency, Marco working the kitchen with the humility of someone who'd learned forgiveness was earned through action, not words. At midnight, after the last family had been served and thanked, after cleanup had restored the dining room to its usual elegance, Dominic led Maya to the private dining room. White lights twisted through garland, candles flickered on surfaces, a small Christmas tree stood sentinel in the corner. "A year ago you were at your lowest point," Dominic said, taking her hands in his. "Publicly accused, fired, humiliated, in front of everyone you'd worked beside for years. Someone tried to make you believe you were nothing." Maya's throat tightened, remembering that cold walk through Luminara's lobby, security at her elbows, shame burning hotter than winter air. "But you survived it," Dominic continued, his voice rough with emotion. "You fought back. You built something meaningful from that pain. And you became someone extraordinary, someone I'm honored to know, to love, to build beside." He knelt, and Maya's breath caught. They'd been engaged for months, but this felt different, deliberate rather than arranged, chosen rather than necessary. "We started with an arrangement," Dominic said, producing a velvet box that wasn't the prop from Rosa's deception. "I needed to give my grandmother peace. You needed to clear your name. But somewhere between the lie and the truth, pretending became real. I fell in love with your strength, your compassion, your absolute refusal to let the world make you small." He opened the box. An emerald surrounded by diamonds caught candlelight, throwing green fire across the walls. "Will you marry me for real? Not for 6 months, not for any arrangement, but because I love you and I want to spend my life building beautiful things beside you?" Maya's answer came through tears that felt like joy crystallized. "Yes, for all the real reasons. Because you saw me when I was invisible. Because you stood up for me when no one else would. Because you helped me become someone I'm proud to be." "Yes, Dominic. Yes." The ring slid onto her finger. Different weight, different meaning. "Your eyes look hazel," Dominic said softly, standing, pulling her close. "But in the right light, they're green. Like hope, like spring, coming after the hardest winter. Like everything beautiful that grows from difficult soil." They kissed, surrounded by candlelight and Christmas music drifting from the dining room. And Maya understood that transformation wasn't a single moment. It was 1,000 small choices to keep standing, keep building, keep believing you deserve the life you were creating. "Are you two done being dramatic?" Tyler's voice interrupted from the doorway. Teenage timing, impeccable, as always. Because there's a TV crew outside. Apparently someone tipped them about the waitress who got fired Christmas Eve and came back as an owner. They want an interview. Maya looked at Dominic, who smiled. Your call. This is your story to tell. A year ago, she'd have hidden. Tonight, Maya walked to meet the cameras with her head high and her hand in Dominic's. She told her story honestly. The false accusation, the investigation, the vindication. But mostly she talked about what came after. Building Bellissima, creating fair employment, proving service work deserved dignity. The worst night of my life became the beginning of the best year, Maya told the reporter, city lights twinkling behind her. Because I learned that being knocked down isn't failure. Staying down is. And when you stand back up, you get to decide who you become. The segment aired nationwide. Applications poured in from across the country. People seeking the respectful employment Maya had promised and delivered. They expanded, opened a second location, then a third. Each one honored Rosa's vision. Excellence with compassion. Success without exploitation. 5 years later, Maya and Dominic stood in that same spot on Christmas Eve, watching their staff serve another holiday dinner for families in need. 2 children now. Rosa, age 3, and Gabriel, 18 months, helped by charming guests with toddler enthusiasm and sticky hugs. Tyler managed their third location, culinary school diploma framed in his office, living dreams that had once seemed impossible when cancer tried to steal his future. The empire they'd built was impressive. But what Maya valued most was simpler. The staff member who could finally afford rent because of fair wages. The single mother whose schedule accommodated childcare. The formerly incarcerated chef they'd given a second chance who now taught others. Any regrets? Dominic asked, pulling her close while their children played nearby. Maya looked around at the life they'd created. Messy, beautiful, meaningful. Built from ashes and arrangement and love that had surprised them both. Not a single one. Only that I didn't find you sooner. You found me exactly when you needed to, Dominic corrected. When we needed each other. And standing there in the restaurant built from her worst moment, surrounded by family she'd created through choice rather than blood, Maya finally understood. Sometimes guardian angels wear expensive suits and intervene at impossible moments. They help you become the hero of your own story. But the real magic isn't being rescued. It's discovering you had the strength to save yourself all along. You just needed someone to believe in you first. From fired waitress to restaurant owner. From humiliation to vindication. From broken to unstoppable. If this story moved you, do 3 things. Like this video, so more people can see stories of real justice. Share this everywhere. Your family, friends, co-workers, who need to remember their work has dignity. Comment below. What country and city are you in? What time is it? Where are you watching from? This community spans the globe, and you matter. If Maya's story reminded you that the people who try to destroy you don't write your ending, subscribe. I tell stories like this all the time. Underdogs who become champions, people who refuse to stay down. Being knocked down isn't failure. Staying down is. See you in the next story.